What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 1300 Eastern Time here in the United States. I wanted to update you guys on the situation with Ukraine and Russia and the Putin and Zelensky meeting and the possibilities for peace. I wanted to summarize everything that happened yesterday when Zelensky showed up to the White House along with all the major European leaders. Also, we have some other breaking news coming in from other parts of the world, and I want to update you on Hurricane Erin. So we're now hearing that the U.S. is going to be deploying 3 Aegis destroyers, the USS Samson, USS Gravely, and USS Jason Dunham, to the southern Caribbean off the coast of Venezuela, with them expected to arrive in the area within the next 24 hours as part of a naval task force recently deployed to the southern Caribbean Sea, which includes the Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group and several P-8 Poseidon sub-hunters, meant to combat drug trafficking by narco cartels in Latin America. So this is huge news, guys. 3 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers have been deployed off the coast of Venezuela and into the southern Caribbean. So from what I'm hearing is these are Aegis destroyers, but depending on what kind of missiles they have, they could either be defensive or offensive warships or both. It sounds to me like these are probably going to be offensive. I don't see why they would deploy missile defense warships off the coast of Venezuela unless there's Russian missiles in Venezuela and they're setting up those Aegis destroyers there to protect the U.S. Gulf Coast. So a massive deployment. We're hearing also 4,000 Marines will be deployed with those 3 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers. Now, these Arleigh Burke-class destroyers can carry the SM-3 interceptor missiles. They can also carry Tomahawk missiles. So depending on how they're loaded out will determine, are they offensive, defensive? Typically, they carry a mix of both. In this situation, I would imagine mostly offensive, but we'll have to wait and see. This is very, very serious. It does appear that the U.S. is preparing for something in Latin America. Either they're going to be striking the cartels, or potentially Venezuela has some missile systems that they're going to launch at the U.S., possibly in retaliation for any kind of strikes on their territory. And the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov refused to commit to a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky following yesterday's meeting at the White House between Zelensky and U.S. President Donald Trump. So far, the Kremlin has only said it is prepared to raise the level of the delegation it sends to negotiate with Putin, but refused to say if Putin is prepared to meet Zelensky. So we're getting conflicting information. Okay, so Trump said that he spoke with Putin by phone and that Putin was reportedly ready to have Zelensky come to Moscow along with Trump, but the Russians are refusing to confirm that. Okay, so there's a little bit of conflicting information there. And we're also getting some conflicting information about whether or not U.S. troops will be deployed to Ukraine. Several times yesterday, Trump said that U.S. troops may be deployed to Ukraine. And then when he was speaking on Fox News, he said that there will not be troops on the ground in Ukraine, but that there could potentially be some air protection provided by the U.S. Okay, so this is absolutely huge news, guys. Whether there's air protection or troops on the ground, it doesn't matter. That puts us basically right on the front lines with Russia, okay? Whether our fighter jets are patrolling Ukrainian skies or whether we have American troops on the ground, the risk of escalation is equally very high. So it does appear that Trump is considering either sending troops on the ground or fighter jets or both. We'll have to wait and see. And Trump said on deploying U.S. troops to Ukraine, he said, we'll let you know that maybe later today we'll be involved. Okay, so it's looking like Trump wants to send U.S. troops into Ukraine. Let me just play some video clips for you from yesterday.
Well, your team has talked about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you rule that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help when it comes to security. There's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe, but we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
Wow. So he said we're going to be involved. Okay, so that's a different position than he had a few months ago when he insisted that the Europeans only provide security and that the U.S. would just stand back and send weapons possibly. But now he's saying that we will be involved. Listen, again.
Europe, but we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
All right, so pretty clear to me. And last night we had a lot of reconnaissance over Scandinavia. We had this U.S. Air Force recon plane that flew all the way up to northern Norway, and it was patrolling this area of ocean between Iceland and Norway, which is considered to be critical for Russia because all their nuclear-armed subs, or most of their nuclear-armed subs, travel through this passage here between Iceland and Scandinavia. So it was monitoring this area. Also a sub-hunter was in this area. And then we had a Swedish reconnaissance plane monitoring the Finnish-Russian border. So lots of reconnaissance going on. Here's a picture of Trump and Zelensky yesterday. You can see both of them with huge grins on their face, contrasting to their first public meeting when they were very angry at each other. And I'll get into the reasons why I think they're both so happy in just a couple of minutes. But a huge change in the demeanor of these two world leaders together. Okay, here you can see them talking and smiling. So something was agreed upon behind the scenes that we're not being told about. Okay, that's why they're both smiling so much. And Trump said yesterday, I don't think there will be a ceasefire. We can work a deal where we aim for peace while they fight. We're going to be discussing security guarantees. So Trump basically said right there that there's probably not going to be a peace deal or a ceasefire, and that the main focus now is security guarantees while they fight and basically freezing the conflict, okay? And Trump said we can reach a deal to freeze the conflict in Ukraine. He also said we're going to work with Ukraine, we're going to work with everybody, and we're going to make sure that if there's peace, that peace is going to stay long term. We're not talking about a 2-year peace and then we end up in this mess again. And a reporter asked Zelensky if he is open to holding an election after a peace deal, and Zelensky responded by saying, yes, of course, Ukraine is ready. Trump said NATO wants to protect Ukraine. We will help them out with that, okay? So I just want to make it clear that yesterday's meeting was mostly about the security guarantees. They were ironing out the security guarantees, who's going to be deploying which forces to Ukraine, and then also material support for Ukraine, providing weaponry. It wasn't so much about a peace deal, it seems like. And Zelensky said details of security guarantees will be worked out within 10 days. Okay, so within 10 days, they're going to work it all out. Zelensky also said we will leave the issue of territories between him and Putin. Okay, so there you have it right there. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. And Zelensky said, I received an important signal from the U.S. regarding its participation in security guarantees and assistance in coordinating them. He also said Russia requested a meeting of the Russia-Ukraine leaders and then a trilateral meeting. That's what Russia apparently requested according to Zelensky. So that would mean Putin and Zelensky, and then Putin, Zelensky, and Trump. Okay. And Zelensky said after meeting with Trump that it was one of our best meetings. Wow. And the president of Finland said Trump felt it was a good idea to call Putin and propose a bilateral meeting between Putin and Zelensky. We will see if Putin has the courage to come to such a meeting. He cannot be trusted. And here's some big news that would explain why both Zelensky and Trump have a huge grin on their face. So according to the Financial Times, Ukraine has promised to buy $100 billion in American weapons and other military equipment financed by Europe as part of a series of proposals aimed at receiving concrete security guarantees from the U.S. Under the proposals, Kyiv and Washington would also strike an additional deal worth roughly $50 billion, which would see Ukrainian defense manufacturers such as UKR Jet jointly work with American companies to produce military attack drones for both the Ukrainian and the U.S. Armed Forces, okay? So this is a win-win situation for Ukraine and for the U.S. because Ukraine is going to get $150 billion worth of weapons from the U.S., and Europe's going to pay for it. Zelensky's not going to have to pay for it. Ukraine's not going to have to pay for it. Ukraine's going to get $150 billion worth of American weapons and jointly produce drones for the U.S. with the U.S. Europe's going to pay for it, and then the U.S. is going to get that money from Europe. So it's a win-win situation for the U.S. and Ukraine at the expense of Europe, okay? So that's why they're both so happy. And Russia's Tu-95 strategic bombers, that's their nuclear bombers, flew over the neutral waters of the Barents Sea, dangerously close to Norway's coastline last night. So I think that's potentially why we saw this rivet joint right up here off the coast of Norway, because of those Russian nuclear bombers, okay? And Switzerland will offer Putin immunity if he comes for a peace conference to Switzerland. And Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov confirmed that Trump was invited to Russia. Okay, so Trump was invited to Russia, but Zelensky, so far, it has not been confirmed by Russia. Lavrov also said, we will not agree on ending the war if there is no respect for the security of the Russian Federation and the rights of Russians in Ukraine. And Trump said Ukraine joining NATO was always a no-no for the Russians, be it in the form of the Soviet Union or Russia. This was long before Putin. And the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Alaska was a show of force by Trump. He displayed a huge amount of military hardware and then did a flyover. It was kind of like inviting your uncontrollable neighbor to your house and showing him your gun case. So Bessent basically confirming that the B-2 flyover was to show Putin, hey, we have capabilities and we can strike your bunkers if we want to. And we're hearing reports that Putin suggested meeting Zelensky in Moscow during his phone call with Trump after and during the meeting with the European leaders. So Trump actually called Putin while the European leaders were there. They were sitting in the Oval Office while Trump had Putin on speakerphone, okay? So this is just really bizarre, the whole situation. It's almost like a bunch of high school kids getting into a fight. It's just really bizarre. And during his meeting with Trump, Zelensky said he's willing to discuss territorial issues, but said that they need to be negotiated between him and Putin, and apparently Trump agreed. And Putin asked China to be a guarantor for the agreement with America and the Europeans. And when Trump spoke with Putin on Monday, he told Putin that he would need to meet directly with Zelensky to discuss his territorial demands, urging Putin to be realistic. Okay, so that's the big issue here, is that Putin basically wants all the occupied territories to be recognized by Ukraine as Russian soil. And for Ukraine, that's like a huge, no. No leader of a country is going to give away 30% of their land. Wanted to just share some more clips from the meeting yesterday. Let me play this clip for you.
We'll see, and in a certain period of time, not very far from now, a week or 2 weeks, we're going to know whether or not we're going to solve this, or is this horrible fighting going to continue? We'll do our best to get it ended.
Okay, so he's saying within a week or two they're going to know what's going to happen. And then this is what Zelensky said.
We had very good conversation with President Trump. We had very good conversation with President Trump.
Very good conversation with President Trump. Here's Trump again.
Europe. And we will come to a resolution today, I think, on almost everything, including probably the security. Europe.
Okay. So he's saying we'll come to a resolution today on almost everything, including security. That seems to be the focus of this meeting they had yesterday.
And we will come to a resolution today, I think, on almost everything, including probably the security. Very much.
Here's Trump joking with the Chancellor of Germany, complimenting him on his tan. Pretty funny moment here. It's good to see all these leaders laughing together, I suppose. It's better than them, being angry at each other. But again, I want to remind you guys that all these world leaders are part of the same club. They're all Illuminati. They're all Masons. So they may act like they hate each other one day, and then the next day they're joking around and laughing. Trump was dissing Putin for so long, saying that he was going to nuke Moscow and all these things, and then suddenly Putin shows up in Alaska, so I just wanted to remind you guys of that.
Very much. Very good. You look great with your tan. Where did you get that tan? I want to get a tan like that. Very much. Very good. You look great with your tan. Where did you get that tan? I want to get a tan like that.
So pretty funny moment there. Here's the picture that was released from the Oval Office showing Trump on the phone with Putin. You can see Witkoff here and Rubio listening to the speakerphone there. So very, very serious. And then here we have a picture of Trump with all the European leaders here sitting in the Oval Office. And then there's a map of Ukraine. And then behind that map, you can see the great Ronald Reagan there. But this is absolutely historic. Here you can see another angle, all the major leaders there. And then in the background, you can see Besant, Rubio. Can't see the other people in the back, too far away. Caroline Leavitt and Hegseth. So big, big, big meeting, guys. Big. And then this is what Trump wrote on Truth Social after the meeting yesterday. He said, I had a very good meeting with distinguished guests, Zelensky, Macron, Stubb, Maloney, Starmer, Merz, Ursula von der Leyen, Mark Rutte in the White House, which ended in a further meeting in the Oval Office. During the meeting, we discussed security guarantees for Ukraine, which guarantees would be provided by the various countries in Europe with a coordination with the U.S. Everyone is very happy about the possibility of peace for Ukraine and Russia. At the conclusion of the meetings, I called President Putin and began the arrangements for a meeting at a location to be determined between Putin and Zelensky. After that meeting takes place, we will have a trilat, which would be the two presidents plus myself. Again, this was a very good early step for the war that has been going on for almost 4 years. Vance, Rubio, Witkoff are coordinating with Russia and Ukraine. Okay, so that's the latest there. Okay, so big historical news. And what you're looking at here is some video footage coming out of Ukraine last night in the Kremenchuk area. This is actually where one of my moderators lives. He's an American by the name of John Hoover, and he volunteers in Ukraine. He helps out with medical stuff and training. And this is where he lives. You can see there was a massive strike on Kremenchuk, as many as 30 Shahed drones, 8 to 10 cruise missiles, and 3 Iskander ballistic missiles. This was right after the meetings with the European leaders yesterday in the White House. So I don't know if this was a coincidence or if Putin was trying to send a message to Trump. Okay, there was also a massive drone attack on Odessa in Ukraine right before Zelensky arrived yesterday. And Ukraine has begun serial production of its first domestically produced long-range cruise missile dubbed the Flamingo, with a warhead of 1,000 pounds and a range of over 3,000 kilometers. The missile will be able to strike a majority of air bases and other military sites throughout Russia. Wow. And the Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó reports that Russian oil supplies through the Druzhba pipeline have been fully halted. This resulted from successful Ukrainian strikes against portions of the pipeline in Bryansk, Russia 5 days ago. Wow, so no oil going through the Druzhba pipeline. And the Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky said Russia is preparing active offensives in the Pokrovsk and Zaporizhia directions. The frontline situation is very difficult. He also said that in Bakhmut, Wagner met its death as an organization and will not recover. He also said that in the Kursk offensive, Ukrainian offensive losses were 5 times smaller than Russian losses, which is the best outcome of any major operation so far. And what you're looking at here is oil and chemical tanker ship that went kaboom in Baltimore, near Baltimore, in the Baltimore Harbor area. So I don't know if this was due to a sabotage attack, sleeper agents, but this happened yesterday evening. Massive kaboom here, okay? Absolutely insane. And I want to update you guys on Hurricane Erin. So here's the latest satellite imagery. You can see it is really, really close to the U.S. It's starting to turn to the north now, but we do have a bunch of warnings. Let me show you some of the warnings here. We also have 2 tropical disturbances right behind Erin. One has a 60% chance of development, and another one has a 30% chance of development. So it looks like Erin is kicking off the Atlantic Basin season for 2025. And now we have this assembly line of hurricanes behind Erin now. So we got to be on high alert. The next couple of weeks are the most dangerous for the Atlantic basin, for the U.S. eastern seaboard as far as hurricanes go. Late August through early October is really the peak of hurricane season. Okay, so any one of these disturbances could potentially turn into another major hurricane and then make landfall. Luckily, Erin was steered away from Florida and the southeastern U.S. due to a ridge, but depending on the atmospheric conditions of future disturbances, we may not get so lucky. But Erin did develop into a Cat 5 with 145 mile per hour sustained winds. Right now, it is just 105 mile per hour sustained winds, so it has weakened quite a bit. And let me just read to you some of the major statements from the National Weather Service on Erin. Erin is expected to produce life-threatening surf and rip currents along the beaches of the Bahamas, much of the east coast of the U.S., Bermuda, and Atlantic Canada during the next several days. Beachgoers in those areas should follow advice from lifeguards, local authorities, and beach warning flags. Storm surge, flooding, and tropical storm conditions are expected in the North Carolina Outer Banks beginning late Wednesday or Wednesday night, where tropical storm and storm surge warnings are now in effect. The storm surge will be accompanied by large waves, leading to significant beach erosion and overwash, making some roads impassable. Now, they've already conducted evacuations along the Outer Banks. They shut down the National Seashore. They shut down the off-road trails. Okay, so they've already done an evacuation of the Outer Banks because of the storm surge and the flooding. All right. And here we have a storm surge forecast. You can see the Outer Banks is expected to get 2 to 4 feet of storm surge, plus large breaking waves. 2 to 4 feet doesn't sound like a lot, but you have to remember the Outer Banks are really low. They're, just literally a barrier island. Doesn't take much to completely swallow them, okay? But this is the first major hurricane affecting the U.S. this year. And here's the latest forecast cone. You can see it's expected to get pretty close to the Outer Banks, and then it's going to curve out to the North Atlantic. And then here you can see all the warnings for the Outer Banks area. You can see tropical storm warnings here. You can see flood warnings, coastal flood warnings. I'll read to you some of the warning advisories here. So it says large breaking waves 7 to 12 feet expected in the surf zone. 2 to 3 feet of inundation above ground level is expected in low-lying areas near shorelines and tidal waterways. Okay, so they're saying inundation 2 to 3 feet, surf up to 12 feet. That is absolutely insane. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back later on tonight with more breaking news. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the thumbs up button if you like the video. Check me out on Patreon so you can watch these videos ad-free. Also, download my free app from the Google Play Store and check the links in the description for the Apple version of my app. You can also follow me on Telegram and Twitter. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply has brought back their $200 discount on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the discount, you got to go to preparewithNYPrepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. That's preparewithNYPrepper.com to get $200 off the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply. This is freeze-dried food, so it has a 25-year shelf life, and it's all packed within 6 rugged, watertight buckets, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. You can easily fit this in a small closet in a studio apartment, and the food has all of your essential vitamins and minerals and up to 2,000 calories per per day. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply, 25-year shelf life for just $500. That's $200 off their normal price. So use the link in the description below this video.